Yeah, you interested? Yeah. We got that for $5. Where do you want to take it? Right here? Yeah. Okay, yeah, perfect.
What is going on, everybody out there? Lamont at large. Today we are walking down the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Many stars on the boulevard here. A lot of vendors, a lot of peddlers, a lot of pushers. And some people out there simply trying to make a buck. And every year, tens of thousands of people come to Hollywood because they're gonna make it big, because they're talented, they have a dream, they have goals, they have ambitions, and most of them don't make it. But a very few do. However, the very few that do, sometimes it doesn't go the way they wanted. Today we're gonna talk about a story quite like that, a story of a young man named Andy Gibb, who came out here and made it successful, lots of money, fame, stardom, girls, and he threw it all away on a $1,000 a day cocaine habit. The tragic cocaine trip of Andy Gibb happens right here in Hollywood land. The Bee Gees have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, probably one of the most influential bands ever of all time, arguably, if not at least during the late 1970s. I'm going to assume that everybody that listens to Western music knows exactly who the Bee Gees are. I mean, 120 million albums sold. These guys have been around in the music business for a long time. The brothers Bee Gees, they're from England, and they started off as a musical group called the Rattlesnakes. So Andy Gibb, he was born March 5th, 1958 in Stretford, England, and later on the family had moved to Australia, and that's where the Bee Gees became famous. Around the mid-1960s was playing, clubs, small venues in Australia. And being a young kid, by the time the Bee Gees got pretty damn popular where they're, flying overseas, Andy's about 6-7 years old. So growing up as a kid, all he knows is his brothers are very famous. Now, at this time, the Bee Gees, they're not rich, but they're making pretty good money. And they would continue to work in music, perform at clubs, smaller auditoriums, such as that. Going into the mid-1960s, the Bee Gees would start becoming pretty popular out here in the United States. And as their popularity is growing and continuing, you have Andy Gibb in the cut right there. And he, of course, like any young kid, he loves his father, but he idolizes his older brother, Barry. And as he's watching them, and sometimes they would take him with them on tour, when the brothers are performing at the Great Western Forum or whatever, this kid, now he's about 12, 13 years old. He has access to his own limo. Hey, limo driver, take me to the closest, finest arcade. I suggest the one in Pasadena, the Pac-Man arcade. I don't think they're open anymore. That was my go-to. But you have all kinds of money. You have the limo. You have alcohol. Yes, he has access to beer and schnapps and vodka and whatever the hell else he wants to drink. I don't know how their parents were in terms of raising their kids, but you could just tell that this dude, when it comes to parental guidance, it was there, but it wasn't there the way it was supposed to be. So about the time Andy turns about 13 years of age, the family the mother and the father, they're living somewhere in Spain. Now, the brothers, they're here in the United States, and they're basically living here full time, and they are getting more and more popular with each and every passing year. And one day, Andy, 13 years old, he tells his parents, he said, hey, listen, I'm dropping out of school. I'm dropping out of school, I'm done. And on top of that, I want a guitar because I want to be a singer. I want to be like Barry. And so the parents, being the good parents that they are, they let him drop out of school and they buy him a guitar. Now they're buying him a guitar, lessons, any and everything, singing lessons, vocal coaching, whatever it is that he needs, because this kid now, nice looking kid, he's gonna follow in the directions of his brothers. So Andy Gibb, after taking some guitar lessons, living in Spain, him and a couple other dudes, they form a band called Melody Fair. And the manager is Barbara, his mom. And they would play small bars in and around their area there in Spain. Now, he's doing this for a few years, and, you know, Barry, he's seeing that his brother is getting older, he's getting more mature, and he's getting pretty decent with the guitar. So, you know, he calls his brother up and he says, hey, Andy, listen, you know, you're not gonna really hit it big in Spain. You're probably gonna wanna take your talents to Australia, because that's a pretty good springboard. That's where we got popular, was in Australia. So the family decides to pack up and they go back to Australia. And later on, Andy Gibb, he would form another band called Zenta. And of course, Zenta, they're getting popular. They're more of an opening act band. So they're based out of Sydney, and they're basically opening up for bands that are coming in from the United States and England and all that. So they would open up for these bands on their, you know, the Sydney leg of their Australian tours. Now, I don't know if the plan was that this group of guys was gonna be like BG-like, and that Andy, being the lead singer, of course, is gonna be the head of this group, and this is gonna be a for sure thing. But these other guys in this band, so they claim anyways, that, you know, they feel they're not going anywhere. They don't think that they're going anywhere. Maybe they feel that there's too much attention on Andy. I don't know. Me personally, if I'm in this band, I'm not gonna leave this band, especially if the, you know, our lead singer is the brother of the Bee Gees. That's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. But that's what they did. That's what they did. But you know what? Screw those clowns. Screw those clowns. I don't care. I don't need you guys anyways. I'm the little brother of the Bee Gees, and I'm gonna make it big. I don't need you goofs. I'll hire people to play the guitar or the drums or whatever. You guys were just fodder. You guys were just background people. I'm the star here. No, he's not saying that. Andy Gibb is actually a pretty nice guy from what I've read online. I actually have not seen or read anything at all bad about him. Me, if I were the star, I probably would be narcissistic and say awful things like that. Whatever the case might be. So he's a solo guy now, and he's performing by himself. And then in 1976, he gets the call from Big Brother Barry. He says, hey, come on down, come on down, come to America. You're gonna be a star. So at this point now, the Bee Gees are working on Saturday Night Fever. And they're thinking that this album is gonna do quite well. I don't know if they thought that it was gonna do as well as it did. But everything is in the making for Andy Gibb to be a huge, ginormous star. So in 1976, Andy comes out to America and he hits Florida. Now, at this time now, the Bee Gees, they're recording their album, and they're in the Miami area. So, you know, they come down, and Barry, being a very, very good producer, a songwriter, they now get started on Andy's debut album, and it's gonna be a doozy. So at this time now, Andy, he's married to a woman named Kim Reeder. They had just got married, and he tells her, hey, I'm gonna go to the United States, and we're working on an album. So just, you know, hang tight, baby. It's gonna be a fast ride, and you're gonna come with me, and you're gonna go with me all the way to the top. So they ended up, well, anyways, Andy ends up coming to America. So he hits Florida, right? Now, there's a lot of things to like about Florida. Even though it's a bit humid, in my personal opinion, the weather is nice and sunny, and there's a lot of cocaine. There's a lot of cocaine. It's flooded the streets there down in South Beach. And Andy Wood, who had developed a taste for it, really develops a taste for it by then. So they start working on Andy's debut album. The album that they're working on, Flowing Rivers, it comes out in September of 1977. And it has two really good singles that are receiving a lot of play on the radio. I Just Want to Be Your Everything and Love Is Thicker Than Water. And I Just Want to Be Your Everything rockets to the top of the Billboard Top 100 charts. This album would go on to sell over 1 million copies, so it goes platinum. Now, you are 19 years old, you're a good-looking guy, by all intents and purposes, you're a nice guy. And you have one of the most popular albums out of that year. And going into 1978, everything is just looking up for Andy. I mean, what more can you possibly want? However, there's a problem. It's not the problem with anybody, any of the producers, the record company, RSO, anybody. The problem is that Andy Gibb is very, very fragile. And he's, you know, getting fan letters. He's on the cover of every teeny bopper magazine. He has his face on all kinds of like calendars and mugs and cups and plates. He even has his own doll. I mean, what? It's like a meteoric rise to the top. But Andy Gibb, he was the type of guy that would look past all of the adoration and the, you know, all the praise, and he would read all the mean stuff written about him. And one thing that really, really bothered him a lot was when they would compare him and basically say, well, dude, you sound a lot like the Bee Gees. You don't really have your own sound. And the only reason why you became popular is because your brothers are the Bee Gees. And slowly but surely, it would really, really bother him. And however, he would always find solace in cocaine. He loved alcohol and he loved cocaine even more. Now, by this time now, his drug addiction, nobody really knows. But behind the scenes, this guy's drug addiction is getting out of control. Now, of course, a couple people out there, they know the extent of his appetite for cocaine, especially his wife now, Kim Reeder. So they settled down in Hollywood, and his drug addiction is getting worse, and it's getting worse. And finally, they would separate, and Kim ended up going to Australia. Now, at the time of their separation, she didn't know it, but she was pregnant and she would later give birth to their daughter, who I don't really know if Andy Gibb met more than one time. But it doesn't really matter. Okay, go back to Australia. That's totally fine. I'm gonna live my life. I'm a rock star now. And now, going into the spring of 1978, there's no rest for the weary, because now Andy Gibb is back in the studio, and now he's working on his second album. In April 1978, the album Shadow Dancing comes out, and it outsells his first album, which oftentimes doesn't happen with artists. Pretty surprising. So, of course, he has the huge hit single Shadow Dancing. It again goes to the top of the Billboard 100 charts, and it would go on to sell 1.2 million copies. This guy, now he's made well over $1 million, and it's only gonna grow more and more. However, a lot of that money is being spent on partying and party drugs and booze. And as he's doing more and more cocaine, his voice is starting to get weaker and weaker. And unbeknownst to him at the time, also the muscle fibers in his heart are taking a beating from the massive amounts of cocaine that he's doing. So later on, he would end up meeting some woman named Victoria Principal. I know a lot of you guys are like, some woman? She was a big star in the 80s. Yes. I'm well aware of Victoria Principal's star power in the 80s. She played on one of the most popular TV shows of all time, Dallas. And she also has her own skincare line. She's a pretty wealthy woman. So they met on the set of the Jim Davidson show. By the way, does anybody ever remember Jim Davidson when he had that show with those other two? It was called That's Incredible. I used to watch it as a kid. So anyways, so they meet on this television show and they seem to hit it off, but little does Victoria know at the time, Andy has a really big drug problem. And one day, after about 14 months of being together or so, finally Victoria, she gets tired of it. And she says, listen, dude, maybe she doesn't call him dude, but she says, listen, honey, it's either me or the cocaine. And Andy chose the cocaine. And the cocaine would quickly envelop him and ultimately destroy him. This is KTLA Channel 5. It's a news station out here, if anybody's from Los Angeles. So in I think it was 1980, this is the exact location where Andy Gibb got a job with some TV show called Solid Gold. And he would get a job and he would be on the show for about a season, co-hosting with Marilyn McCoo. And his drug habit was so bad that they ended up letting him go because he would miss tapings. He would show up, and if he did, it'd be late. And they're trying to run a professional thing, and they can't have this hopeless drug addict here messing up the show. So they ended up firing him. So by this time now, he lost a job here at Solid Gold. He lost a girlfriend, Victoria Principal, who was beautiful. And his life is, in my opinion, it's slowly starting to kind of spin out of control. Actually, that is a huge understatement. It is rapidly spiraling out of control. Currently walking down Oakdale Avenue right now, and right across the street is the former residence, one cocaine Lair, if you will. This is where Andy Gibb used to live, used to do drugs. do other things, eat, sleep, stuff, guy stuff. And this was the residence where he would sit staring at the wall as his career is rapidly being just destroyed by his own hand. And at this time now, his third album, After Dark, comes out, and it didn't do so hot. Now, you could hardly expect your third album to surpass either your first or your second. It would be nice, but it went gold, but it just didn't do what the numbers that they were hoping for. And the record producers and executives at RSO Records, they're tired of Andy because his drug abuse is getting so out of control. His voice is getting destroyed. They were barely able to put out the album because his voice, just ravaged by the constant use of cocaine, is just gone. But it is right here, folks. One cocaine lair that used to belong to Andy Gibb. So even though he was dropped by the record label, Andy still kept pretty busy working. Now, at this time, he's working in smaller venues, hotels. He's touring the circuit from Las Vegas up to Northern California, Lake Tahoe. And surprisingly enough, this guy was offered yet another chance. He was starring in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And the producer of that play said that of all the people that he's ever cast for that part as the lead role in that play, he said Andy was the most talented. He fit the role the best, but of course, Andy is showing up late to rehearsal, late to the play itself, and they finally had to say, you know what, we can't do this anymore. We can find somebody maybe not as talented as you, but somebody who wants to show up. Again, drugs is taking control of his life. All through the mid-'80s, even a stop at the Betty Ford Clinic would not be able to help him because if it's not cocaine he wants to do, it's alcohol. It's either one or the other, alcohol or cocaine or alcohol. That is it. And his brother Barry had actually set up a meeting between him and some record executives from Island Records over in England. He never showed up. He never showed up. I mean, people have done all they can to help this man. I mean, he even had 4 songs ready to play for the people, and he was going to tell them, hey, I'm ready to record. You can't record if you're not showing up. And sadly, 5 days after his birthday, March 10th, 1988, Andy Gibb went to a hospital over in England complaining about chest pains. Very, very painful, almost felt like somebody was stabbing him in the heart, and then he would later fall unconscious and die, sadly. And this is his final resting place, Andy Gibb. An everlasting love. And he is here. There's a bench right here that has Andy's name on it. And yeah, just ultimately a sad story of a man who had fame, money, talent, women. He chose drugs over them all, and sadly, it took his life. Sadly, it took his life. So there you have it, guys. Andy Gibb's story in a nutshell. Only 30 years old. That is terribly young, terribly young. Okay, guys, we're out of here. Many more stories to tell as I traverse the streets and the freeways here of sunny Southern California. He could have had it all. But sometimes you're giving You're giving it all and you can't handle it. All right, guys, I'm out of here. See you on the next video. Peace out.